Live with CDP Sports Talk, a weekly sports and entertainment podcast sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet. Live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and LinkedIn. And on audio via Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, Anchor FM, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Radio Public, and TuneIn. Now, here's your host, Chris Palme.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Season 9, Episode 27, overall 467 of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out barrycullen.com for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles, along with their great selection of all-electric vehicles and Cadillac products as well. You can call the dealership at 519-824-0210 and tell them Chris Palme sent you, or you can email the dealership at info@barrycullen.com. Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership has been a proud sponsor of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show since 2022, and they have been in the city of Guelph, family run and operated since 1969, and I've been a proud customer of Barry Cullen Chevrolet since 2000. Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show is also brought to you by Wellington Brewery at 950 Woodlawn Road West here in Guelph, Ontario. Check out their website, wellingtonbrewery.ca. Try a Welly on, and please remember to drink responsibly as well. I hope everyone's doing well on this Friday, the 13th, Friday, December 13th, 2024. And I'm excited to have my guest on again tonight. His name is Steve Bermel. He is the Buffalo Bandits analyst on 1520 The Bet in Buffalo, and also on the CW23 network in Buffalo. And Steve's going to come on, and we're going to talk another not Buffalo Bills, I should have said, Buffalo Bandits victory over Ottawa tonight and last week against Rochester. And by the way, guys, for one game, 1 week only, I am wearing, I don't see if you guys can see this, I'm wearing a Lee Evans jersey from the Buffalo Bills back in the early 2000s, and I am going to be a Buffalo Bills fan, Bills Mafia fan this week as the Bills take on the Detroit Lions, who can help out the Philadelphia Eagles by knocking off the Lions. And if the Bills can beat the Bills can beat the Lions, I will wear my Lee Evans Bills jersey to the Bandits home opener on December 28th against Rochester. Anyways, we're going to bring on our guest, Steve Bermel, the radio and TV analyst for the National Lacrosse League World Champion Buffalo Bandits. Hey, Steve, how you doing?
Hey, Chris, good to talk with you. It feels like it's been a long time and a whole lot has happened since we last talked. But most recently, what happened is an impressive win for the Bandits tonight over the Black Bears up in Ottawa.
18-7. The word I wanted to describe that game, Steve, is the Bandits just basically toyed with Ottawa, really, for most of the game, except maybe the third quarter where Ottawa had a little bit of a run.
Yeah, even in the third quarter, I think goals finished, 3-aside. You had the one goal where the Mikes actually picked up Dane Smith. He popped over, to the middle of the formation, kind of rolled back out, and then just fired it at the net. And the Mike picked up him saying, "I didn't know what to do," because everyone was covered. Every place he wanted to try to move the ball to looked like it was covered. So he just kind of threw it at the net, and lo and behold, it goes in. And especially late in that game, Chris, they, as you said, were just kind of pouring it on. And all I can think is maybe that they've had some trouble against the Riptide in the past, even over the last few years as the Bandits have been ended up being champions of the league. The regular season losses to the New York Riptide, which now is the franchise that moved to Ottawa, have stung a little bit because the Riptide have struggled. And for some reason, the Bandits just couldn't seem to beat them. And they sure did tonight. Just as you mentioned, just kind of, I don't even want to say toying with them because it sounds disrespectful, but that's what it kind of felt like at the end of that game, because they were scoring in bunches even at the end of the game once it was over.
Yeah, I didn't mean to say it that word. It's just it just seemed like when people thought Ottawa had a chance to get back in the game, the Bandits just laid it to them. And I read this on Adam Levi's X account too. This is the first time since 2015 the Bandits have opened up the regular season with 2 8+ goal victories, which I didn't know about until Adam released that information on X.
Yeah, it's not that they're squeaking out wins. We saw them kind of stumble out of the gate last year and lose a couple games. They lose in Albany. They get kind of manhandled game one on the road against the Firewolves. And man, did that come full circle last year, right? As the finals ended up in Albany, between Albany and Buffalo. But yeah, they have come out firing on all cylinders. And Chris, the first game of the year last year, it was 1-0 Buffalo after the first. And although they weren't scoring defensively, they looked outstanding. Matt Vince looked really good. They killed some penalties. And then all of a sudden in the fourth quarter, when they went on that 8-1 run to end the game and to win by 8 goals like they did, that offense, that team is the team that showed up for the entirety of the 60 minutes tonight. They just carried over that momentum from that huge fourth quarter they had against Roch last week. And unfortunately for the Black Bears, they were on the receiving end of it.
In the 2 games in both fourth quarters, they've outscored Rochester and Ottawa, I believe, 14-2. That's dominating.
Yeah, and we had Pat Gregoire on the broadcast kind of talk about it, that the way that the Bandits operate, he said he compared him to an anaconda, his reference, not mine, and he goes, as the game goes on, they kind of size you up, and then as the game winds down, they constrict the life out of you, and that's what the Bandits can do. Beginning with the 42-year-old phenom in net, and then the defense is looking really, really stout this year. And the forwards are, Ian McKay, 5 goals tonight. He's what, the 4th option on this offense to be a goal scorer, and he puts in 5 today, and just an incredible performance. So, him playing full-time offense is something he's excited about, and they find ways to beat you, to the Bandits, but everyone firing on all cylinders today, and another dominant win.
Wanted to ask you this, Steve. Obviously, they're the back-to-back champs. How I thought it could be difficult this year because being the back-to-back champs, everybody wants to knock you off. And also I wanted to mention the hunger factor, but so far in 2 games, this team seems to be very hungry and wants to be the dominant team again of the National Lacrosse League so far.
Yeah, if a championship hangover is a thing, it certainly isn't this year. But last year, it kind of felt that way, right? Like it was a real slow start, and you were kind of nervous. Like, it was concerning. And if you remember, I think the Bandits were the 4 seed, and they, the only reason they became the 4 seed in the unified standings was because Georgia lost late in the year, the last game of the year. And then, that first game in the playoffs, the Bandits beat Georgia in overtime. But, the way last year went, it kind of felt clunky, Chris. Like, they really kind of fell a couple times throughout the regular season. They were asking some questions. Everyone was kind of wondering what the heck's going on with them. They just won the championship. And then round 2 of the playoffs hit, and they dominated Toronto, dominated Albany, rip off those 5 wins in a row in the postseason, and, just absolutely steamrolled people. And that's the team that came out of the gate this year. And I think maybe the most valuable thing they have, Chris, is all but 2 players from that championship roster are back. They got the whole band back together, whether that's guys like Matt Vince and Kyle Buchanan, who are definitely closer to retirement than the beginning of their career. And, Buchanan's the exact same age as I am, with kids that are the same age. Vince has the same kids, the same age as me. And, family is so important, and they have to kind of balance, and I'm not trying to speak for them, but you have to balance, like, do I want to be around the family more, or is this something really cool for my family to experience? But I think because they've won back to back, there's no doubt that these guys were going to come back. Paul Dawson re-signing, right? He's up there in age as well. But they got the band back together. And, honestly, that Paul Dawson trade last year is really what kind of glued the back end together defensively. And now you're kind of seeing the fruits of that from the beginning of the year, that, Paul Dawson's not getting added to this team at the trade deadline. He's had an entire playoff run, training camp, and now is starting the year. And the defense looks just as settled as ever, as it did last year as well, with Dawson back there kind of holding the fort. Him and Matt Vince go way back, and there's some comfortability there and a whole lot of experience between the 2 of them. So, it's not surprising that they're off to this start. I am not surprised that they're playing so well, because when you bring a team like this back together, they're the back-to-back champs for a reason, and they're playing as if they are the back-to-back champs.
I've been really lucky, Steve, covering the Bandits the last couple of years, and the CFL's Toronto Argonauts, who've won 2 out of the last 3 Grey Cups. So it would be something special if they could do the 3 points. But John Tavares is probably the right coach for this team to keep this team hungry, focused, and to to get on them to make sure they're playing their top of their game every night.
Yeah, I mean, a guy that has now won 6 cups himself, right? Like, he has been around for all of them because he was here for all 4 in the 90s. Was around for '08, and then the last 2, the 3 in the 90s, sorry, and then the '08, and then the last 2. He's been a part of the organization for all of them. So definitely, he's a guy that players can look to, and he knows how to win. He knows what it takes to win. Having done it at every level. And then, Chris, you talked about how lucky you've been being around championships. Look at the number of guys who have won championships in the summer ball leagues. Look at Dane Smith and the guys for Peterborough that won the Mann Cup back to back with John Tavares. Look at Cam Wires winning the PLL championship with Archers, right? Like the guys have a championship pedigree beyond just winning the NLL Cup. And it took a long time for guys like Dane Smith to finally win one in the NLL, but all of a sudden now all they do is win. Between the gold medals for Team Canada and Worlds, the summer ball championships that they've had, Chaos winning with Ian McKay and Josh Byrne and Dane Smith and the whole crew. This team has a winning pedigree as a group, and that starts with John Tavares, Steve Dietrich, right? From the very top, these are experienced guys who played in the league a long time, who know what it takes to win, know what it takes to build a winner, and know what it takes to be a winner.
I call it the Bandit way, and I know I got kind of not laughed at, but when I mentioned last year at a post conference to John Tavares, I said, I know nobody in Buffalo likes to hear the word New England Patriots, but they had the Patriots way for 20 years with Belichick and Brady. This Bandits team has the Bandit way, led by John Tavares, Dane Smith, and Josh Barnes. And what I love about this team is they have a lot of superstar players, but they rely on everybody. It's a true team effort.
Yeah, and the Bandit way it's kind of funny, but I think a lot of it, Chris, is expectations. The Buffalo Bandits don't expect to make the playoffs every year. They expect to win a championship every year, and that goes back since the early 2010s or the late they were in the finals in '06 and they win it in '08, and they've been in several finals. Dane and Josh losing to Calgary, losing to Colorado. They weren't satisfied. It wasn't, oh, look how well we played, we made the final. They wanted to win. And now even more than ever, but for the longest, the expectations in Buffalo is championship caliber, not let's make the playoffs, let's get to the final, let's have a good season. They'll talk about goal number 1 is make the playoffs. Goal number 2 is a home playoff game. Goal number 3, home field in the playoffs, whatever. No, the goal for this team is to win a championship. And I know that's every team's goal, but let's be real. For every team but one in the league, they're not going to do it. And for a lot of teams in any sport, Chris, just making the playoffs would be a huge accomplishment. There's teams that are on very long playoff droughts. I won't name any of them specifically.
We know a couple of them.
We won't name any specifically, but I won't name any specifically, but just getting in would be a huge accomplishment. But for the Bandits, getting in isn't even close to the goal. And I think that's kind of what you're alluding to, Chris. This team has an expectation of being a championship competitor who better win the championship. And that is the expectations from the top down. And I think that's what kind of leads to what you might have earmarked as the Bandit way.
Well, and the Bandit way too is the ownership. Obviously, Terry Pugola owns the team, but he's hired the right people to run the team and coach the team, and that's how you build a team. And certain NHL teams, like your team and my team, could learn from the Bandits as well. By the way, I was in Buffalo on Monday night for the Sabres Red Wings game, and there was 14,000 people there. I would say about maybe 10,000 were Bandit fans. The city loves the Bandits, and it's just such a great relationship between the Bandits and the city of Buffalo. And it was just such a great idea by the Sabres to have them there on Monday night at the KeyBank Center.
Yeah, I mean, and Chris, I've been around the Bandits for a long time. I was at the championship in '96 when they won. I was a young kid, and it was a sellout. It was the last sporting event in the Memorial Auditorium, so it was a great experience. People were ripping their seat cushions out and taking them home because they knew the Aud was closing. Like, it was wild. There was thousands of people on the field. And then, Chris, in the mid-2000s, it got kind of lean because the Bandits weren't playing very well. The Sabres were having some struggles. There was some issues at the upper levels and whatnot. And it got pretty lean in Bandit land. And then, they go to the championship in '06. They don't win. They win it in '08. I don't think it was a sellout. I had season tickets at the time. And then, 2010s, they had a good following, a decent number of season ticket holders, and they were doing really well for themselves. And by all means, the Bandits have always been a great, successful organization. But now you can't get a ticket. Like they are selling out. People are trying to get tickets to the banner raising night in a couple of weeks, and like the advice they're getting on social media is good luck. Like the way to get tickets right now is resale for $200 or $300. There's not, there's never been NLL tickets going for that price, but it's a hot ticket. They're in high demand. And I actually own 6 season tickets. Even though I work for the team, my wife and kids come down, and some of my wife's friends, and all the people around them have been longtime season ticket holders. But it's been awesome. Bandit Land has always been awesome, Chris. But in the past couple of years, winning makes everyone pay
It
attention.
helps.
But not even before they had won the championships, people were getting more and more interested in the Bandits. Now, man, it's taken off to the moon, and it's awesome to see. And I'm so proud of the organization. I don't play any role in the success that the organization has. I'm so proud with what the organization has built. As someone who's been attending games since 1996, been around the team, covering the team since 2009, been a season ticket holder since the mid 2000s. When I have that view, even though I'm not an important part of the organization, I'm not at the top level, I can zoom out and look at that and just be like, man, this is awesome for them. Like, this is so cool that they've built what they have in this city and in this arena and with this team. So it's awesome to see.
I just wish I had started following the game of lacrosse much earlier. This is my 3rd year covering lacrosse, and I really love the sport. And to be honest with you, right now I'll watch more lacrosse than I will the NHL.
Yeah. And Chris, what's interesting is for most people, they have to see the game once to fall in love. And I will tell you, just from being around the team and, being in the role that I'm in, there's been more than one occasion where a potential owner or future owner in the NLL was brought to a game by the commissioner. And you're damn right they brought him to Buffalo, because if you're going to experience box lacrosse, if you're going to experience the NLL, the place to do it is Banditland, and this was years ago, before they were selling out. Chris, before last season started, not this season, which we're in the same boat, but before last season started, we got an email saying, hey guys, just so you know, if you need any tickets for your friends and family, we'll try to get them for you, but they're going to be in the 300s. The 100 level is gone for the year. So the entire lower bowl, even to staff, unavailable before the season even started. So they're really doing well for themselves, and it's awesome to see. And I'm so blessed and so privileged to be a part of the organization, even in the small role that I'm in.
Yes, and I'm very thankful that the organization's going to have me come back again this year to do some freelance media work. I believe his name is Ryan Gall. I think he took over for the other Ryan who left
Yep,
to join the
met him in
Islanders.
Rochester. Met him in Rochester last week, and Ryan Gall is his name. So yeah, you are correct.
Absolutely. And one thing too about the KeyBank Center, even Monday night, I was sitting in the 300 level, but the fans have a great time there, even if the Sabres are struggling. And I don't think there's a bad seat in the KeyBank Center at all.
Yeah, that was one of the first things that was most impressive. So, I was in the Memorial Auditorium. I would go to Bandits games, Sabres games, the indoor soccer team, the Blizzard. I saw the Harlem Globetrotters at the Memorial Auditorium as a kid. And I just remember being in the Blues, for those in Buffalo that would know, you had closed circuit TVs over your head because it was impeded view.
Steep.
So there were parts of the ice you couldn't see.
Very steep. I remember the orange seats and very smoky getting into the arena. I remember that.
Yeah, and the odd, there were a lot of seats that were either pretty scary or not great views. So when they opened up in 1996, I think it was the Marine Midland Arena at the time, right? Whatever the name of it was. I felt the same way, Chris, right away. It's like, man, there's not a bad seat in this house. And I'll tell you too, from our perch up in the press box, Chris, we have a great vantage point. We're not too far from the field. You got that bird's eye view that you're close enough to the field, but also you have that, you're high enough up to watch plays develop, and, being able to write about the game like I did for years and now call games from up in the press box. It's a great barn. I mean, it really is a cool place to call games.
Absolutely. And I'm impressed with the new video scoreboard. I was actually sometimes watching more of the board than the actual live action. And then they improved the PA system. So it looks like they are, and the roof too. So it looks like they are slowly making some renovations to the KeyBank Center, which is almost 30 years old now.
Yeah, they needed to spruce it up. They knew, and that new scoreboard is amazing. For those of you who are Bandits fans and haven't been yet to see a Sabres game or an event with the new video board, the best thing I can say is no matter how big you think it is, it's actually going to be bigger. It's huge. It's awesome. It's a true monster of a jumbotron. It's really cool.
One of my friends, he's got his own podcast show in Buffalo, New York, Robbie Schneider. He's on here. He wants to say, let's go Bandits. He's a huge Bandits fan as well. Oh, go ahead, Steve.
No, I was just going to say awesome. It's so cool to, see people around and about, and hanging out. And yeah, it's cool to see.
When I was at the Red Wings Sabres game on Monday night, I wore my Red Wings gear, but I also wore my Bandits hat and T-shirt underneath. And It was just so great seeing the players there. The Bandits were there, and Chris Swenson and Brett were there as well. And the Bandits, it just felt like a second family to me being down at a Bandits game down in Buffalo. And I think they do a really good job connecting with their fan base.
Yeah, we were at the Bison's game this past summer. So 2 years ago, the Bison's game was the day of the parade. So we paraded from the arena to the Bison's game, and that was the lacrosse night at the ballpark. And now this past summer, they just did a lacrosse night at the ballpark that wasn't connected to the championship celebration, but we took our family down. And Chris, you're right. I mean, the fans, they're super approachable. The fans come up, get their pictures, get their autographs, and yeah, they do a good job engaging the community with the team. Whether that's at grassroots level at schools or events in the public or events like they did on Monday, with the Sabres game being, the bandits at the rink or whatever they call it. It was really cool to see.
I'm going to put you on the spot with this question. How good is Dean Smith and Josh Byrne in terms of all-time great Buffalo athletes? Obviously, you had the French connection, Jim Kelly, Thurman Thomas, but where do you rank these two guys, the dynamic duo, I call them?
Yeah, it's the second coming of the core group, right? You have Tavares and the Kilgore brothers up in the rafters, and you're going to have Dane and Josh right behind them as the guys that led this. I don't know if I want to use that dynasty word, but this is 4 straight championship appearances with 2 wins back to back. If they go 3 in a row, it would be insane. Can you imagine Matt Vince winning 3 in a row with 2 different teams? Like, not only to win 3 championships in a row, that's hard enough to do, but to do it with 2 different organizations would be insane. But they have to be up there as some of the best, if not the best, because they've gotten championships to show for it, right? But you mentioned how well they're playing. They had the graphic today on the broadcast about the top point seasons or top point getters for a season. It's the same 3 guys. Like, it's Josh and it's Dane and it's Teat, and they just continue to do it. And Dane had 10 points week 1 or 11 points week 1, 10 points tonight, and he's on pace for 191 points or something, 144 assists, which is going to break all the records, which, by the way, belong to him. Like, it's not one crazy year. Like, remember when Jonathan Chichu scored all those goals for the Sharks and he was like turning everybody's head, and then he just fizzled out? Like, it was a great 1 year. The stick was on fire, and that was that. This guy, night in and night out, he'll have an off night and score 9 points. He'll have a night where every shot he takes misses the net, and he'll go 0-9. He'll get no goals and have 9 assists. Like, it's insane how his numbers rack up. Byrne, winning the MVP last year, and the guy that we can't forget, Jake Elliott on his podcast was talking about the greatest box lacrosse players ever, and the first names to come to mind, John Tavares and John Grant Jr., and he puts Matt Vince right in that category, and I think you have to as well. This guy's had like 8 finals appearances. He's got 5 wins, going for 6. You look at the stat, he's given up 7 goals in his first 2 games this year. It's insane. He's 42 years old, and he's probably the best goaltender in the league. It's insane to see him keep doing it. So they certainly have a core group of guys, Chris, that just continue to impress. And you would think it's hard to be impressed by them because how many accolades, championships, and stats they've put up, but they continue to do it because they don't just keep doing it, they almost do it better.
And Dane Smith tonight, 1,100 career points, and Josh Byrne, 500 career points. How much do these 2 guys mean to the Bandits organization and to the city of Buffalo and the lacrosse fans there?
I mean, it's huge to have the guys that can be the faces of the franchise like that. And I would say if you're walking around Buffalo and people aren't necessarily a Bandits fan, they probably know who Dane Smith and Josh Byrne are. Like their names kind of transcend a little bit beyond the sport. But I think what else is important, Chris, when I think about it is, excuse me, that what the way lacrosse works, you have 5 forwards out there, 2 righty, 3 lefty, 3 lefty, 2 righty, however you're going to do it, 3 righty, 2 lefty. But the fact that they play the opposite ends of the floor gives them the ability to be such a duo. Like you think about like Stockton and Malone, one being a guard, one being a forward, like how that dynamic can work out. Like you have a righty forward and a lefty forward. And because of that, the way that they connect, the way you move the ball in the cross, you want to get that goalie moving left to right, right to left. And the way that Byrne and Dane can zip the ball across formation to each other, I think that adds to it because they're always contributing on each other's goals. They're always contributing on each other's plays. Last Saturday in Rochester, Josh Byrne laid out Chad Tutton, and the ball came loose. And from the ground, Byrne scooped the ball up to Dane Smith, who was on the run and scored. And Josh Byrne was kneeling on the ground, and he went into like a turtle position and was just pumping his fist because of the play that the two of them, it was a broken play that turned into a great goal. So not only are they important to the Bandits and important to the city of Buffalo for what they do and what they mean with the championships and the winning and the support and the love they have for the community and that they live here, but the two of them playing together on the floor the way they do, being those lefty righty forwards that work together, I think all that does is add to their whatever mystique or whatever word you want to use that brings them together.
Dane Smith reminds me of Mario Lemieux, the great NHL Hall of Fame player. And tonight, Pat Gregor said to the broadcast, Dane scored a goal, but he goes, Dane was more looking to set up one of his teammates than actually shoot the ball, but he just shot it in. And Pat was saying how Dane, if he wanted to, could score probably 50, 60, 70 goals if he wanted to. But I think in his game, he wants to set up his teammates instead.
Yeah, and the way he sees the floor too, right? Like his ability to see the floor and thread the ball where he wants it gives him the ability to rack up the assists. So he is a good shooter. We've seen it. I remember last year he was snake bitten for a while shooting the ball, and they moved Josh Byrne to the top of the power play, which I think was smart. Let the hot hand shoot when Dane was a little bit colder. But what broke that slump of all things, Chris? He was, if you remember the game, it was in Buffalo. He was trying to feed Chris Cloutier on the top of the crease, and Cloutier missed the pass, but it floated past him, and because it was kind of a changeup, it went in the net. And you could tell right away Dane was like, because he wasn't shooting it. He was trying to feed Cloutier coming across the front. But what's funny is that ball goes in, that shot drops for him, and after that, that was like the last we saw of his goal-scoring funk because all it took was that one going in. So he's an incredible player. He's the best, probably the best lacrosse player in the world. It has to be in the conversation. If he's not number one, he's damn close. And, it shows night in and night out with the amount of success that he has.
Absolutely. And McKay, how much does he mean to this Bandits team? Obviously 5 goals tonight for the first time. And also I wanted to talk to you about Chris Cloutier, who always comes through with big goals, and Kyle Buchanan playing his first lacrosse game in his hometown of Ottawa.
I was nervous, so we'll work in reverse order. I was nervous with Buchanan being a free agent, right? He was only on a 1-year deal last year. And I said to my wife, because she's a huge fan of Kyle Buchanan's, and so am I, but she, I said, it might be a situation where he's like, if I'm going to play 1 more year, let's do it for the hometown Ottawa Black Bears. So I was nervous that was going to be the case. Instead, he re-signs with Buffalo and scores 2 goals tonight for them, and that was really cool to see. And then the lefties, what's interesting is coming into the year with the trade of Brandon Robinson, Emerson Clark being on IR, the only lefties on the roster were Chris Cloutier and Josh Byrne. Now, sure, you could run a 3-righty set every offensive set and have Fraser, Nanakoke, Dane, and Buchanan over there, and just have 4 righties, 2 lefties on the roster playing up front. Now, Ian McKay played some offense last year, was able to play out the front door a little bit, but for the most part was being used on defense in transition. I think that was more a result of the injuries on the back end, right? Bryce Sweeting, Adam Bomberry get hurt. He ends up playing defense kind of by default, plays transition. I know he was itching to play more mostly because he can contribute. It's not a matter of not wanting to play defense. He knows he can score. And, I think he got 1 last week. He looked fine. tonight he was on fire. He scored 5 goals on 5 shots, Chris. Every shot he took went in the net today. And some of the goals that he scored, the second one when he scooped the loose ball from behind the net and did the dunk, and then the last one when he was able to just stay outside the crease and jump in and score. They actually had to review it for 5 minutes to determine he didn't step in the crease. And then Kluche, I think he's underappreciated sometimes because he moves bodies. You need somebody over there that's going to set a pick and get some people open. And a lot of times when Josh Byrne is getting open for an outside shot or able to step down and score, it's Kluche muddying it up, running to the middle, taking a body out. So he deserves full credit too. We mentioned how good it is to have the whole band back together, and slotting McKay out the front door today really paid dividends as he scored 5.
Kluche and McKay are unsung heralds, in my opinion. Wanted to get your opinion on this, Steve, too, on these reviews. I just find they're taking too long. I think the one tonight took over 5 minutes. It's like, couldn't they just make it like 60 seconds, 1 minute, make a decision after the 1 minute? Because it takes away from the flow of the game to the fans as well, in my opinion.
I understand wanting to get the call right, but I couldn't agree more. If the ruling is, or if the rule is, there has to be conclusive evidence to overturn. In my humble, small-brained opinion, if you can't see within 1 minute or 90 seconds evidence to the contrary, how are you going to find conclusive evidence? Because in my mind, conclusive evidence you should be able to spot right away. So if I agree with you, if in 1 minute you haven't been able to make a decision, the call on the field has to stand. If you've had a minute to look at it and you can't definitively say yes or no, the call on the field stands. Because I understand as an official, they want to get the call right. So they're going to take all the time they need to get it right. But 5 minutes today, I can't stand it. It's too much.
What did you think of the crowd in Ottawa tonight? It didn't look like that was there. It didn't look like there was as many people there as there was opening night. And long term, do you think this franchise can succeed in the nation's capital?
I mean, they had a good turnout for game 1, which was exciting to see. I wasn't sure how many Bandits fans were going to travel up today. Tough for me because it's a Friday and a 5-hour drive, or I would have considered heading up there. But regardless, I think they're going to do okay, Chris. You know why? Because they've got the backing of the Senators. And I don't want to misspeak on any of it, of what the Senators' official role is, but they are partnered with the Ottawa Senators. And I remember when they announced the team being up there, they had like Chris Neal and other players doing press conferences. They really have partnered with the Black Bears, have the Senators. And I think that there's a huge benefit because of the marketing that comes with that, the relationship that comes with that, the arena agreement that comes with that. The alternative is if you're playing in an NHL barn and you're not affiliated with the NHL team, you're paying a ton of money to rent out that rink every night because you have to pay for the facilities, you're paying for security, you're paying for, the arena, the lights to be turned on, and that can be crazy. I don't know what the Black Bears have worked out with the Senators, but I think it's a pretty good deal in that regard, and I think that having the support of the Senators will lead to some success for the Black Bears going forward.
And that's part of why The Rock left Toronto to go to Hamilton, because the rent was ridiculous at the Scotiabank Arena. And MLSE, who owns every team in Toronto, I guess had no interest in owning The Rock. And I wanted to ask you this too. The Senators are getting a new arena, I guess, and it's going to be built in downtown Ottawa. So that might help the Black Bears long term, because right now where that arena is, it's in Canada, which is, I think, 20-30 minutes outside of Ottawa.
Yeah, and I don't know what'll happen. Remember when the Nets moved right to Brooklyn from Nassau? Didn't the Islanders stay there for a while? And then I don't remember exactly what happened with it. And excuse me, I don't know. Are the Black Bears going to follow the Senators? I don't know. Or is that arena going to be theirs? Are they? I don't know the plans, Chris. Are they planning on keeping Canadian Tire Center open? Is that going to become a facility for other events? That I don't know, but. Yeah, we'll see what happens. There's always that weird dynamic. Like, do teams do better playing a little bit on the outskirts, like Henderson, Nevada, where the Desert Dogs are playing now, versus being on the Strip? Or do you do better when you're right in the heart of downtown, like Buffalo or some of the other cities where the rink is in downtown?
I might have to ask Pat Gregor about that, or one of my connections from the Ottawa Sun about the long-term plans for the Black Bears in Ottawa, if they're going to stay at that arena or move with the Senators. I'm just assuming that arena, once the Senators move out of there, they would probably demolish it, but who knows?
Yeah. So that's what we thought might happen in Nassau Coliseum, and that thing didn't it finally get demolished? It took a while though.
No, it's still
No,
standing.
still standing.
They actually have a Saturday night's main event, WWE retro event there tomorrow night. I guess the first one took place there 40 years ago, but the Nassau Coliseum is still standing. So, Steve, just quick thoughts on this game against Ottawa tonight. Obviously, Ottawa got off to a good start, 1-0, but then the Bandits just tied it up right away. And then the power play. What did you did you find the Bandits' power play was more efficient in this game than they were against Rochester?
Well, they had to be, right, because they didn't score on the power play against Rochester, including a 5-on-3 that was like a minute and a half. And I'll tell you, when they didn't score on that 5-on-3, it was concerning. Like, this offense is so potent, and you opted not to, you didn't score on the 5-on-3. And in a tight game like it was with Rochester, that could have been a turning point. Like, if you kill a 5-on-3 in any sport, that's a good shot in the arm for your team. So I certainly wasn't worried about the power play, but they used the power play tonight early to build that lead, and they looked really good moving the ball around and finishing. So, their special teams have always been great. That's part of the reason that they've had postseason success and success in general. So it was good to see the power play come to life today, especially because when the power play was working was when the game was close earlier on. So they used the power play to kind of put some distance between themselves and Ottawa early, and that kind of helped push the snowball down the hill before things got out of hand.
And one thing I've noticed too in both games against Rochester and Ottawa, they've gotten out to 4-1 first quarter leads. I remember last year there was a number of games where they got off to slow starts until the second quarter. And do you feel this team will be a better starting team than they were last year in the first quarter?
Yeah, I think there's two parts to that, Chris. We saw the offense jump out early today, but the other part, like we said, defensively, they seem so much more settled. They're not giving up goals early. Especially, a goaltender like Matt Vince. When I was covering the Bandits, working with the Bandits, and he played for other teams, with any great goalie, the way you get to him is you score early. You hope to get them off their game, or better yet, you hope to chase them, right, Chris? If you're playing one of the league's greats, and you can put 4 or 5 in early and get them out of the net, great. That's an accomplishment. So last year it seemed like the Bandits were giving up goals early and getting behind, and then that changes the way you have to play. And I don't know that Matt Vince gets rattled. That's not it. But of course you're going to be playing looser when you're up 4-1 versus down 4-1. So the fact that they're playing so sound defensively, in addition to scoring early like they did today, that's a recipe for success.
And they also look at the coaching staff too. Just thoughts on John Tavares and Steve Dietrich, and just keeping this organization consistent.
Yeah. For those that don't know, they've made some changes over the years, right? Like Dietrich takes over defense, Cosmo with goaltending, and Cosmo obviously a great goaltender in his own right in his career. And then Eric Vince is definitely underappreciated. When the Bandits signed Matt Vince from free agency, it was a package deal. His brother comes over too, and he's a great video coach, and he coaches the offense and sends out the videos every week on Huddle of where the goalies have been giving up goals and all that kind of stuff. And he's invaluable, and he's a super techie guy, is Eric Vince. So he always has tablets set up on the bench, and he's got everything figured out. And it's an amazing asset. I coached high school sports, Chris, and I had a harder time coaching the kids who were really good because I was better at taking people who weren't very good and coaching them to be a little bit better. And, taking an average athlete and turning them into a good athlete. This group of coaches can take the best and hone them and make them better, as they've done. I mean, that's how you win championships.
Absolutely. And besides the big guns tonight, Steve, in the win against Ottawa, who are some other Bandits who stood out against Ottawa, in your opinion?
I like Dylan Robinson. He stood out in the postseason for me last year too. There's a lot more opportunity in transition with Ian McKay not out the back door, and seeing Dylan Robinson sprint up the floor, just a great job from him. Seeing why am I drawing a blank already here? Obviously, McKay having a great day out the front door. Cam Wires is the other one. Cam Wires able to block a couple shots today and had a breakaway and almost scored. And that was awesome. My son's favorite player is Cam Wires. So seeing some of these guys fill in transition, Nick Weiss, Dylan Robinson, Cam Wires, having those guys step up in transition, moving the ball up the floor is awesome to see. Dylan, I thought, was outstanding in the postseason last year doing that. Nick Weiss has always been decent in transition, getting that ball up the floor when he gets the opportunity. So, yeah, those guys definitely deserve some love. I think Weiss had 1 or 2 goals tonight too.
Wanted to ask you this too, Steve. For people that are watching us or listening to this, and they're Bandit fans, who are some new guys on this team people should look out for in the 24-25 season on the Bandits?
So we had Scanlon make his debut today, but we didn't see much of him. Right, he's a forward. Didn't see too much of him today, but it was pretty cool that he got to crack the lineup, and they sent Zach Belter down to the practice squad to make room. On the other side, Thomas Whitty played last week in Rochester against his former team. He's a defensive transition player. I actually asked Craig Rybczynski, the Nighthawks director, when they traded for Whitty, hey, I don't know much about him. Tell me. He's like, oh man, he's a hard worker, physical guy, good in transition. I'm like, awesome. And I said, is he going to stay out and play some offensive sets? He goes, absolutely not. So it was good to know, like, okay, he's kind of more of a defensive transition player, will haul the ball up the floor. And for those that saw, Whitty got the heavyweight player of the game last week from the Bandits. So Whitty and Scanlon are the 2 new guys that we would see in the lineup with the such small changes to the roster, right? You pretty much just lost Justin Robinson, Brandon Robinson, Adam Bomberry. Otherwise, the band's back together. So those are the 2 names that we've seen in the lineup. I would say Whitty definitely made more of an impact last week in Rochester than Scanlon did tonight in Ottawa.
Where do you rank this team? Obviously, it's only 2 weeks and 2 games, but where do you rank this team up with talent and depth? And do you feel this team could be even better and stronger than last year's team?
Yeah, I mean, obviously health is always important, and if they can stay healthy, of course they're going to be a team to be reckoned with. I'm sure that they're going to have some stiff competition coming up here too. They got Rochester at home by this upcoming week, and then Rochester at home for the banner raising. But there's some good teams. You got your Colorado's to deal with. Colorado looks really good this year. I think Toronto's going to shake it off and figure some things out. Yeah, I think they will. I think that there's too much pedigree in that roster for them to keep rolling down the mountain the way that they are to start the year. But I think there's some big games ahead of Buffalo. But ultimately, this has got to feel really good for the confidence too. Like, not that they would be worried about anything, but yeah, what could they possibly want to change right now, Chris? What are they worried about right now? Like, there's not a single red mark on the exam as of right now. I mean, they're giving up. They say in lacrosse, score 10 and give up less than 10. Well, they're giving up 7 and scoring 20, for goodness sake. Like, they're really checking all the boxes, firing on all cylinders, whatever term you want to say. And I'll tell you what, we get our emails throughout the week, and it's, hey, good win, guys, great job. We haven't accomplished anything yet. Keep it going. You did good. Yeah, you did real good for that game, but we got a lot more work to do, and we got to keep doing what we're doing if we're going to keep finding success. So, there's not going to be a degree of arrogance or expecting anything to be handed to them. And I think that was exhibited today at the end of the end of the game, that they were still scoring goals when they were up, 5, 6, 7, because they nope, we're not satisfied. We're not settling.
Who are some other teams that Bandits are going to compete for? Obviously, the Bandits are going to probably be in the top 4 spots, but obviously, you feel Colorado's going to bounce back this year, and then thoughts on San Diego as well, and the Rocks. You already mentioned that they're off to a tough start, but you feel they'll turn it around at some point.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, let's see what the Rush can do, right? They were 1-0 after last week's game, just like Buffalo. Let's see what they can do. San Diego looks good. The offense, they're scoring, they lost 14-13 last week or something like that. The ageless wonder Ryan Benesh keeps scoring goals. Calgary, they're just going to try to score more and more goals. The whole Christian Del Bianco situation going on, I don't know enough about it to speak about it, but it feels like Calgary is just going to try to outscore everybody, so we'll see what happens with them. But right away it feels like Buffalo and Colorado are the 2 teams to look out for, just because the Mammoth, not only do they look really good, but the Mammoth overcame some huge deficits to win their games. So Colorado and Buffalo look to be rising to the top. San Diego, of course, has to be in the conversation. I'm not counting Toronto out for a few more weeks here till we see how that settles out, but in the unified standings, if you can start out 2, 3, 4-0, and everybody else has a game that they've lost or 1 or 2, you set yourself up pretty well for the rest of the season.
And just thoughts on Ottawa. Do you feel this team will be improved from last year when they were in New York?
Yeah, it's hard to judge right now, Chris, because they played arguably the best team in the league tonight, and they got shellacked a little bit, but it's hard to measure up against that. And last week they looked, or 2 weeks ago, they looked super impressive against Toronto.
Right.
But Toronto rolled over again the week after. So, Ottawa certainly has talent. Dunbar looks really good. Teet's outstanding. Laddister is a great coach. Higgins is a great goaltender. We've seen it. So, it's hard to judge what to expect from Ottawa because I'm not sure who they are yet, right? They're not the same Riptide, that's for sure. They're better than they were a couple of years ago. They keep putting this roster together and really piecing together good pieces to build a competitor. So we'll see. I think the jury's still out. I think that's the best I can say because their win came against a team that's really struggling and their loss came to the best team in the league.
And what I love about this league, it reminds me of the CFL too, is it's 18 games, but every game really means something, especially with the unified standings and the top 4 teams getting that home playoff game and the best of one. And it's huge.
Yeah. And, that worked out for Buffalo against Georgia. That they end up winning in overtime. And, I'm sure they were glad to be home. And like I said, going into the last weekend, even if they won, they weren't guaranteed that home game. Georgia had to lose, and they did. So, yeah, the unified standings make everything different for sure and make things interesting. And then the scheduling, too, like they break the teams up into 3 brackets. It was 5, 5, and 5 when there were 15 teams. And you play the teams that finished in the same bracket as you twice or more. And then I think you play the teams in your bracket twice and then everyone else once. So if you were in the bottom of the standings last year, you're going to play the teams that were also in the bottom of the standings. So like the Bandits only play Ottawa once this year because they weren't in the same bracket. But teams that finished near the top, they'll play twice in the regular season. So yeah, you talk about the games meaning something because you play the teams that you finished closest to in the standings the year before. If you're going to put yourself ahead of them, you've got to beat them twice, right? If you're going to gain ground, it's like divisional games in any other sport. Like it's because there are not divisions, the teams that finished around you in the standings are the teams that you're neck and neck with, you would think, overall. And those are the teams you have to beat to rise to the top.
What's your overall thoughts on NLL Commissioner Brett Flood? I think, what is it, Flood? Frood. Okay, and it's Frood and the long-term viability of this league. And I just wanted to get your thoughts also on Panther City folding and the NL being down to 14 teams league-wise.
Yeah, I'm excited. That's what I am because, he's still kind of putting his fingerprints on things and looking at some of the developments with NLL Plus and the continued partnership with ESPN. The TV deals in every market is huge. That was one of the biggest complaints people had in Buffalo, Chris. Hey, I love the Bandits, but where can I watch them? Oh, you got to go to Bleacher Report Live. And these people are like, what the heck's a Bleacher Report? Like they weren't even, but now the fact that all 18 Bandits games are on linear television, right? ESPN2 for the banner raising, and then every other game's on CW23 here in Buffalo, WNLO. You can pick it up with rabbit ears. Like you don't even need to have cable, and that is huge. And that's something that gets credit to this administration up top. These type of things, these type of movements, they've had several commissioners in the past. Some were really big lacrosse fans. Some were really good businessmen. Some have a really good mind for how to grow and expand the game. The unbox is a great idea. These grassroots, getting the NLL's hands on leagues of kids who are preteens, 12 years old or whatever. If you can make them fans of the sport, they're going to get their parents interested in the sport. And that's how you develop within the lacrosse community. So I think he's got some really great ideas, and I'm excited to see where the league is in 3-5 years under his tutelage, because I think it's in good hands.
Do you see any possible expansion teams in the next couple years?
There were so many rumors swirling around, Chris, and I don't know how true any of them were. The idea that Panther City might have been bought and moved to a different city, that the league might have kept. These may not even be true, Chris. I can't speak to it, but there were rumors that the league was going to move the team to a city, that there were buyers in other cities, that there was this going to happen, that going to happen. If it's true that there's ownership groups interested, then of course expansion's got to be on the table, because I don't know how many teams they would like to have in the league to say, yeah, we've really made it. Is it 30, 32 like the other sports? Is it 16? Hey, if you know what, if we get 16 great markets, we're happy. I don't know what that number is, but I think expansion always has to be an option, especially with the unbox that we see, Chris. If there's an organization, or if there's a city rather, that unbox really seems to take hold in, like one of my first thoughts is Nashville. Like if that, I know for a fact there's like a dozen players in the league, if there was a team in Nashville, that would play there in a heartbeat, because they would love to play down in Nashville, Tennessee. So if there's a city that it really could fit, of course they're going to expand. But it has to work. You mentioned Panther City. Unfortunately, I don't think that it was a a good market. I mean, clearly the fruit kind of bore out from that. So yeah, you have to find the right market. You have to have the right setup. You have to have the right partnerships. And, if they can continue to do that, I think expansion is not only going to happen, it's going to work.
And we brought this up earlier too. It'd be important to have a National Lacrosse League ideally partner up with an NHL team or an NBA team as well.
Yeah, in my opinion, you do it one of two ways. You have the partnership of the franchise, of the Big Four franchise there, or you do what Toronto's doing now, and you find a home in a city that makes sense, that that works. And I'm not an expert when it comes to the business and the X's and O's. I personally think that's the two viable ways to have a franchise work: is have the support and ownership of the Big Four, or find the correct arena in the right market that you can be self-sufficient. Both can work for sure. It's just you have to have one of those two tickets, in my opinion, to have it work.
Steve, I don't think I've asked you this before on my show, but what's the salary cap for every team in the NLL? Is there a salary cap?
No, there's not, but there's a luxury tax. So if you, I don't know what that number is, what the salary cap number is, but that number is a soft cap that if you exceed, you pay a luxury tax into, and then if you're under the salary cap, you would then benefit from that shared revenue from the luxury tax. So I don't know what those numbers are. I don't know what league minimum and league maximum are. The league has never been really transparent about that. You don't see, like in other sports where they signed an 8-year, $64 million deal. We don't have those kind of deals. We know that, we know Kyle Buchanan signed a 1-year deal this year. We know that Matt Vince signed a 2-year deal last year. No idea what that number is, but there is a cap. It's just not a hard cap, and that imposes a luxury tax.
Is there a number of years a guy can sign a contract for in the National Lacrosse League?
Not that I know of. You have Josh and Dane both having signed 5-year agreements, which is huge because it's rare that a player is going to be in market and all that kind of stuff. The stars really have to align to have that happen, and that long-term commitment from either side hasn't really been agreed upon that I've seen. I don't know if there's a current cap. I don't believe there is. But I know for a fact that Josh and Dane both signing 5-year deals was a big deal. You don't see that too often. And, obviously that was exciting for the Bandits, but also exciting for Josh and Dane to say, hey, this is a long-term commitment between each side of the agreement.
Covering the CFL and the Toronto Argonauts, one of the issues with the CFL, and I know pro sports is a business, but it's hard to build a fan base when you got guys leaving every year. And that's the problem with the CFL. Every year there's such a high turnover rate, obviously with free agency, and they do have a salary cap. But how do you market players when they're only going to be in your city for 1 year and build a fan base? And that's the one issue I have with the CFL. Obviously, it's a business, but it's nice to see guys with teams more than 1 year and grow the sport, and people identify with players. And that's what I love about what they're doing with the Bandits.
Yeah, and I think that teams know that. You need guys in market. You need them going to the schools. You need them living in market, and not every team has the luxury that Buffalo has, being so close to Southern Ontario, right? Like Buffalo has the benefit of having guys living here, but then also guys living 45 minutes away in St. Catharines or 2 hours away in the GTA. So teams know that. Teams know that it's good to have guys in market. You have to be grassroots, and you have to market your players well. I think it's important that you're marketing your players, not just the game, not just the team, not just the sport, because you're right, there's value in that. And I think that the league knows that. I think that they know what they have to do. Executing on it's a different story. You have guys who are firefighters, or guys who are, welders, or whatever they're doing full time. So that can be harder for people. But yeah, you are right. It's incredibly important to have grassroots connection in the community to be successful, long term in a market.
And social media too is huge.
Yeah, and I've been literally in classes with people, like trying to teach the guys how to do social media, right? Like how to be effective in managing their own social media to keep fans engaged, and to be, to market themselves as best they can. So yeah, it's definitely an art. I don't claim to know how to do that, but there's definitely an art to managing social media, as a team, as an organization, but then also the players using their social media to market themselves.
Hey, just quick thoughts on the Rochester game, what you liked about that win, and being back with John Gerkler on the Bet 1520 and CW23 network.
No, I'm excited to be back. John and I have become great friends over the years, and I've learned so much from him. Just all the media experience I had didn't even it paled in comparison to what John has in his right pinky from the years he's been doing it. So I'm excited to be back for another year, working with the organization and with John on the call and for radio and ESPN Plus and CW23. It's just super exciting. So yeah, excited for that. The Rochester game, I think I was most excited for the defensive stand early, that they weren't giving up goals. And, they also prevented the run. What happened a few years ago, Buffalo was up like 8-6 at the half. And then Rochester went like a 6-1 run or something crazy, and Buffalo lost like 15-12 or something. They avoided that. They didn't give up the big run. And the same thing today. Like, the way that you win a game is you don't give up the big run. The Buffalo had gone on a couple of runs, but if you give one right back, it's a close game. And they didn't allow Rochester or Ottawa to go on a run, which when you're the road team, that's really good, because then the fans, the crowd gets knocked out of it. It happened in Rochester and in Ottawa that the home fans were knocked out of it pretty quickly. In Rochester, because there were 90% Bandits fans there, and then in Ottawa, because the Bandits put the stranglehold on early. So very impressed with the defensive stand in Rochester, and very impressed by limiting any runs from the opposition.
Long term, do you find Rochester can survive there? I know when the Bandits go there, most of the fans are Buffalo Bandits fans, but long term, do you think they can survive in Rochester?
Yeah, I think that, I mean, the fans that are a part of the Nighthawks, fan base are super passionate, and I think winning helps. I mean, when they were filling that barn when they were winning their championships with Matt Vince, 10 years ago. So they got to figure out their stride a little bit. I mean, they've got good pieces in place. That team is really well built and really well put together. And if I think about Rylan Hartley, if he can stay healthy and what they can do, absolutely. I mean, it's like I said, it's the two ways of the successful market are either the NHL, NBA ownership, or having a market with the arena that works. And I think Rochester has that. So of course, I want Rochester to continue to succeed, especially because it's such a storied lacrosse city. With how long lacrosse has been a part in Rochester. So, yeah, absolutely.
Dave Buchanan going to be back with you and John on the broadcast this year.
Yeah, he's going to be the third man on the call between the benches with us. And he actually was in Rochester. He did color for the Nighthawks 2 weeks ago. Obviously, both PSC teams, and Craig Gribzinski reached out to Dave and said, hey, my color guy can't make it this week. Can you fill in? So he did color commentary for the Nighthawks for that Bandits Nighthawks game 2 weeks ago. But yeah, he'll be back between the benches in 2 weeks when the Bandits take on the Nighthawks in Buffalo.
And the Bandits now are going to be home for the next 4 games against Rochester, Toronto, Philadelphia, and Albany.
Yeah, and I know we said that Toronto, that we're not thinking that they're out of it by any stretch, but there's a very real possibility Buffalo could be 5-1, 6-0 to start this season. The way they're playing and looking at the schedule, it's kind of beneficial to them that they win these 2 road games. And now not only do they have 4 home games, but they have 4 winnable home games. Of course, you got to be on your game every night, but they definitely could be out to a really strong start a third of the way through the season.
What do you think of the earlier starts? I know the home opener starts at 6:30. I'm thinking because of TV, but do you like
Correct.
the earlier starts as a broadcaster?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I'm downtown hours before. Like, if I'm calling the game, I don't even eat dinner at home. I'm back downtown. I'm at the rink for breakfast about 8:30 or 9 o'clock. I get home around noon. I'm home for about 4 hours, and I head right back downtown. So the earlier start's fine by me. The 7:30 to 10 o'clock is fine, but being able to do 7 o'clock to 9:30 is even better. I know my wife really appreciates it because my kids are 7 and 5. So an earlier night for them is a win for everybody. So yeah, it's you are right. The 6:30 start is because of the TV broadcast, but yeah, I have no issue with the 6:30 or 7 o'clock start, especially on a Saturday. If it was a Friday, it might be tough. Everybody having to work and such. But Saturdays, I'm fine with the earlier start.
And quick thoughts on the Bandits promotions this year for some of their home games.
Yeah, they always have some fun with it, and I've gotten to see the jerseys. They always do the special jerseys. I've gotten to see them already. They look really cool. I can't speak on it. I gotta keep it quiet, but yeah, it's fun to have it, and because Banditland is always so raucous, if you give them something else to connect to, if tonight is, I don't know, just thinking of an example, red and green for Christmas night, you're going to have 18,000 people wearing red, green, and orange. It's such a party atmosphere in Banditland that when they add that extra ingredient or that added element, it's always super fun.
I like the promotion they had in Ottawa tonight. They kind of stole a page from the hockey teams around here and the OHL, the teddy bear toss night. Maybe they can do that in Buffalo next year.
Yeah, it's definitely a cool one. I've been at some women's hockey games where that's happened, and unfortunately in Ottawa, some of the fans didn't get the memo of the first goal of the second period. We had the first goal go in, and they started chucking them.
Absolutely. And finally, before we wrap this up, Steve, I know you're a huge Bills fan, and this week only I'm a Bills fan. What are your NFL predictions for both the NFC, AFC playoffs quickly? And I know your answer to this question, but who should be the NFL MVP? Saquon Barkley from my Eagles or Josh Allen? I want to get your opinion and thoughts.
Listen, you test my fingers on social media all the time because I'm ready to get after it with you about the MVP, because Barkley's having an unreal year, but what Allen is doing is unprecedented. Now I know Barkley's doing some crazy things too. This is the God's honest truth, not because I'm talking to you. If Barkley wins the MVP, I won't be mad because he certainly deserves it. I think for us, Chris, we're scorned because last year Lamar won it, not having stats anywhere close to what Josh Allen was doing.
Yeah.
And now this year, Allen is putting up these nuclear stats, and if he doesn't get it again, it's like, what does this guy got to do to get it? Like, that's kind of how we feel. I think that has a lot to do with it. We're scorned because last year Allen's stats were way more impressive than Lamar's, and Lamar won MVP. This year, Allen is going absolutely bananas. The biggest thing is his stats was his interceptions. Well, he's done away with those. He's only had 3 all year. So, I won't be upset if Barkley wins. They both deserve it.
Co-MVP. They did it one year with Barry Sanders and Brett Favre.
I think that they need to do a different award for quarterback of the year and then offensive MVP, because every year they give MVP to the best QB.
Steve, I agree with you. I actually totally agree with you there.
Because otherwise it always goes to a quarterback, and that's not fair to the other position players that have just insane years. And in the playoffs, you can't count the Chiefs out, even though they're the freaking luckiest team in the league. I do think the Bills can make a run. They're getting healthy. You're getting Kincaid back. You're getting Keon Coleman back. The way that Allen is playing, I don't know who beats them. Like, yeah, the Rams beat Buffalo last week, but Stafford had an incredible performance. Like, look at the numbers he put up last night. They scored 12 points. Like, it was a perfect storm for Buffalo to lose to the Rams, and it's not even because of anything that Allen or the offense did. The defense just was not good. But I do think I'm almost hoping for a Bills-Chiefs championship game, right? Of course, the NFC. Of course, you got to respect the Eagles, not just saying that because it's you. I want to see the Lions just because they've never done it. I mean, as Bills fans, we resonate with Lions fans. We kind of always wink at each other. And also there's that long connection, right? Ralph Wilson was part owner of the Lions. We had preseason games against the Lions every single year for a million years. And then anytime that we're snowed out in Buffalo, twice in the last few years, they moved our games down to Detroit. We played at Ford Field because we were stuck in Buffalo, couldn't play in Orchard Park. So we do have a little bit of love for the Lions. So I'm hoping for good things from them out of the NFC. I think it's going to be Eagles or Lions, and I think it's going to be Bills or Chiefs coming out of the AFC.
The Sunday game, I've got Buffalo winning this game 43-40, but you know what? I have a gut feeling it might be a low-scoring game because the Lions are getting healthy on the defensive side of the ball, and I don't think McDermott and the Bills defense were happy with their performance against the Rams. I have it 43-40, but it could be a 12-9 game like the Rams and Niners.
Well, and the Bills just announced Rasul Douglas is out, so that's going to change things.
That's a huge loss.
Game too. Is it going to be Kyer Elam or is it going to be Jamarcus Ingram, the undrafted kid out of UB? So we'll see what happens. You think it's going to be Ingram over Elam?
Yeah. And I say it's going to be 43-40 Buffalo, and I don't think you're going to see a punt. I don't think you'll see a punt or a kick in this game.
Chris, I don't care if it's 43-40 or 3-0. Just get me a Bills win.
Yes, please win. And what's your thoughts on the Eagles-Steelers? Steelers are having a really good season, 10-4 under Russell Wilson.
I'm kind of stuck because I started Stafford and Kupp last night in fantasy. Kupp put up 0, Stafford put up like 6. But is it true that Jalen Hurts hasn't beat the Steelers or Russell Wilson's never lost to Philadelphia? What's the stat going on here?
I think the Eagles I don't think they've ever beat Russell Wilson,
Yeah.
but the Steelers haven't won in Philadelphia since 1965.
Well, the Steelers haven't been a great team, but they're finding ways to win. Like, I don't know. They're not like
Mike
I don't think
Tomlin
the Steelers are. He's unreal. He's unreal.
Mike Tomlin, whether you like him or not, is one of the best coaches in the National Football League.
Incredible. One of the best all time. The guy's been coaching for how long? He's never even had a losing season. Just crazy.
18 years. And before we wrap this, what are your quick thoughts on Bill Belichick going to North Carolina?
I mean, they showed him the money. I mean, I guess that's worth it. But I think it's going to fizzle out, Chris. I don't know. We've seen it before. You know, I think he's just done. And it's not even, no disrespect to one of the best coaches to ever do it. I think it looked like Brady did a lot for him. Not that he's not a great coach. And I don't have high expectations. I don't think it's going to make, UNC like a playoff team or anything like that.
And finally, Steve, where can my audience follow you on social media? The best way to contact you? And can you just tell us about your next broadcast with John Gerkler and Dave Buchanan on the Bet 1520 AM and CW23 network?
Yeah, you can find me on X at Steve Bermel. I see the tag going on down there. That's perfect. I'm on Instagram at Steve Bermel as well. Yeah, you can find me on those sites, whatever. And if you send me a DM on either of those, I'll be sure to answer you. I'm happy to talk about anything, not just the Bandits. And I'm excited, Chris, because it's the first broadcast that we're going to have. So, I believe we're going to be radio only for this first one because it's Lanier. Teddy Jenner's making the trip across the continent. I think it's going to be Teddy Jenner and Pat Gregoire calling that game. With the banner raising night against Rochester. I'm just going to be excited to get back into it because for one, we haven't done it since, June when they won the championship. But for two, the fact that the season's already going to be a month old before we call a game, I'm champing at the bit to get started.
How do you feel about the Bandits having their first two on the road and then the next four at home?
That's fine. I mean, it stinks because people want the banner raising to happen right away. There just wasn't arena availability on Saturdays. Unfortunately, I think they would have loved to have the game one at home opening week, raise the banner, get all that going. But you know what? The fact that they're coming home 2-0, Chris, no one's going to be upset about it. They're not coming in with any kind of flat tire. That's for sure. They're coming in red hot. So it's going to be a great atmosphere in a couple weeks.
And what time do you guys go on air for that game? It's a 6:30 game. So what, 6 o'clock, 6:15?
6 o'clock. Yep, we'll be on the radio 6 o'clock with our half-hour pregame. We always do a couple good minutes with visiting coach and player, with the Bandits coach and player. And sometimes we bring someone in on the hotline. I know Gertz had Latisseur on this past week just to have a quick conversation with them. The Black Bears were on a bye, so we had a conversation with them about the game coming up. We've had Kurt Malosky on, so I don't know what Gertz will line up as far as if we have a pregame interview or anything like that, but 6 p.m., 15:20 the bet.
I'm looking forward to seeing you and John again, and also Bud Bailey. I always like talking to Bud Bailey and picking his brain and stuff like that. So I'm just looking forward to the home opener, and fingers crossed there isn't 3 or 4 feet of snow that night.
Just so you know, Chris, I don't have anything outside of my house. We didn't get it. It's all south of here. I didn't even have to brush my car off, my friend. We have not gotten a flake of snow up here.
It's just funny in Buffalo. It just depends if you're in the Northtown or Southtown. It just depends.
Northtown 2 inches, Southtown's 2 feet.
I think I'd move in the Northtowns.
I'm not complaining right now, that's for sure.
Great area. I love the area. Buffalo's like my second home. And like I said, I'm hoping your Bills can pull off a win on Sunday. And I will wear the Bills jersey with me if they can beat the Lions. And Steve, I want to say thank you so much for giving us over an hour of your time tonight to talk the Buffalo Bandits and the game of National Lacrosse. And looking forward to seeing you on, hopefully, fingers crossed, on December 28th against the Rochester Nighthawks.
Sounds good, Chris. Thanks for having me. Great talking with you.
Thank you so much, Steve. Have a great night and enjoy the Bills-Lions game Sunday afternoon.
Thanks. Take care, Chris.
You too. All right, guys, that concludes Season 9, Episode 27, overall of 467 of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership and Wellington Brewery here in Guelph. Before we wrap up this show, guys, I'm going to show you a clip courtesy of the National Lacrosse League's YouTube channel of last week's Buffalo 15-7 win over the Rochester Nighthawks. And this clip, again, is courtesy of the National Lacrosse League's YouTube channel.
Great job getting in the shooting lanes by Buffalo. Here they go. Nanta Koch scores. Looking. Feeds it in the slot. McConvey, the shot he missed wide. Lansbury in front. McConvey scores! Over now on the far side. Looking across the shot. He scores.
2-1 as McKay feeds it over to Dane, and then he goes all the way across the zone to his best friend, Josh Byrne.
Josh Byrne over now to Dane Smith, driving in on goal. Shooting, he scores. 3-1 is our score. Thank you for joining us this Saturday evening. Dane Smith from his off wing fires, he scores. That was a rocket.
And it goes in and then back out and then bounces off of Riley Hutchcraft as Chase Frazier starts this play going into the zone. Dane Smith fresh off the bench. Nobody could cover him yet. I think it was
over on the far side. Smith flip past Lansbury. Now Turner Evans scores.
They break through here with the first goal of the half. Ryan Smith flips it back. Only 4 players on the floor there.
And Medeiros missed wide, but the follow-up, he scores.
And then try to force them defensively to focus on other players.
And Rochester ties it. Grabbed on the near boards by Connor Fields. Waiting for him to break out. Fields shooting, he scores! Nanticoke looking, sizing up the Rochester defense. Gets it across, Burns scores. Brings it across the top, Scott O'Lane, but feeds it over, he scores.
Caught Buffalo by surprise there, going to the net like that.
Fields shooting, he scores. Connor Fields. And here he goes. Now over to Dane Smith, the shot. The follow-up, he scores. Dane Smith, 12 minutes to go here in the fourth. 1-goal lead, Buffalo fed in front, he scores. Backing in, Nanticoke looking, still with it. Triple teamed and still scores.
As exactly Dehoka Nanticoke covered by 2 Rochester players, Slade and Coates. He spins away.
And Smith. Now Kluche shooting, he scores.
Late coming on Ian Lord to beat Riley Hutchcraft to give Buffalo back its 4-goal lead.
Smith against Biles. Feeds it in front. Buchanan scores.
Again for a 3rd goal here in the second half and even in the 4th quarter for Kyle Buchanan.
And Buffalo has knocked off the Nighthawks. They are now 1-0. And Rochester 1-1.
That clip was courtesy of the National Lacrosse League's YouTube channel. Please hit the subscribe notification. Buffalo won opening night last Saturday night, 15-7 in Rochester. And tonight, the Buffalo Bandits improved to 2-0 with an 19-7 win over the Ottawa Black Bears, led by In McKay's 5 goals. Josh Byrne had 2 goals, 8 assists, 10 points, and the great Dane Smith had another big game as well. I believe Dane had 2 goals, 7 assists, 9 points. Byrne had 2 goals, 8 assists, 10 points, and In McKay had 5 goals for the Bandits, who are 2-0, and now the Bandits have their next 4 games at home at the KeyBank Center. And if you've never been to Banditland, you can get tickets through bandits.com, and also you can check out the National Lacrosse League site, NLL.com as well. And also TSN's going to have a Friday night game of the week, and they did one tonight with Ashley Docking, Pat Gregor, and Matt Cullen, who did a great job. So the Bandits improved to 2-0, and now they're off until Saturday, December 28th, 6:30 for their 6th NLL banner raising ceremony against the Rochester Nighthawks. And again, bandits.com, and yours truly, weather permitting, will be there if there's not 3 or 4 feet of snow in Buffalo. But I will wear a Bills Lee Evans jersey if the Bills can beat the Lions on Sunday as well. Before we wrap up this show, guys, the next live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, sponsored by BarryCullen.com and WellingtonBrewery.ca, is going to be a doubleheader on Tuesday, December 17th at 5:30 p.m. Eastern with my special guest, Tom Calhoun, the longtime public address announcer for the National Hockey League St. Louis Blues since 1987. And Tom is now the host of the St. Louis Blues Hockey Legends podcast. And he's already done a couple episodes there with Kelly Chase and he's got one coming up with Bruce Affleck, the former Blues player, this Monday night at 7 o'clock. And also, I have a second show on Tuesday, December 17th at 8 p.m. Stand-up comedian Lady Nicole, who's out of the D.C. area. So Tuesday, 2 shows, 5:30, Tom Cahoon from the St. Louis Blues. 8 o'clock, Lady Nicole, a stand-up comedian out of the D.C. area. Hope you guys can tune in as well. Wellington Brewery, founded in 1985, located at 950 Woodlawn Road here in Guelph, Ontario. Their website, wellingtonbrewery.ca. You can call them at 519-837-2237. Try a Wellion, and please remember to drink responsibly. The Christmas Lager Mix Pack is your go-to gift or party flavor for a truly refreshing holiday. Packed with premium lagers, this mix includes our year-round classics, the smooth Golden Helles Lager, great beer, I love it, and the easy drinking Boot Light Lager, plus a special seasonal treat, Crispy Forever. These crisp, clean brews are each uniquely crafted for a balance of flavor, lower alcohol, and ultimate refreshment, making this mix approachable for any crowd. This festive 6-pack is as handsome as me, just kidding, as it is convenient, perfect for sharing at parties or gifting to the beer lovers in your life. Please check out Wellington Brewery's website, wellingtonbrewery.ca, and try a Wellion. And remember to please drink responsibly during this holiday season as well. And I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and Happy Holiday, which is going to be coming up in a couple weeks from now as well. And since it is Christmas time also too, I live in the Guelph area. Please consider helping out the Guelph Food Bank. Food banks across Canada, especially this time of the year, really need the help. And here in Guelph, it's Guelph Food Bank. Their website is guelphfoodbank.ca. And the Salvation Army is another organization I help out during Christmas time here in Canada. salvationarmy.ca, guelphfoodbank.ca. I find Christmas time of the year, it's a time to be kind to people and also to give back to others in need. So if you're able to help out your local food bank or the local Salvation Army, whether you're in the States, Canada, or internationally, please do so as well. I want to give a shout out to Barry Cullen Chevrolet dealership at 905 Woodlawn Road West here in Guelph, Ontario. Check out barrycullen.com for the newest selection of new pre-owned GM vehicles, their all-electric vehicles, and their Cadillac products as well. And I've been a proud customer of Barry Cullen Chevrolet since 2000. Family run and operated here in Guelph since 1969. Speaking of Barry Cullen Chevrolet, since it's wintertime, in the wintertime, batteries get low. You want to make sure you don't have a dead battery in the winter weather. At Barry Cullen Chevrolet right now, you can go to the service center this winter, no charge battery. That's right, a no charge battery test. And they throw in a $20 instant rebate on a new AC Delco battery as well. So if you feel your battery's weak or about to die, go into Barry Cullen Chevrolet for a free no charge battery test. And if you do happen to need a new battery, they'll give you a $20 instant rebate for an AC Delco battery as well. And I also want to give a shout out to a restaurant that I really like here in Guelph, Slovaki Flame, or you can check out slovakiflame.ca. They're located at 206 Speedville Avenue here in Guelph. 519-625-4200. They have great breakfast specials Monday to Friday for $7.99. I love their blueberry pancakes. And for lunch, I like their hummus wraps with salad, and they have great dinner specials. They're a small business, family-run business, and they have really good prices and great food. So check out Slovaki Flame at 206 Speedville Avenue here in Guelph, and their website again is slovakiflame.ca. And before we wrap up this show, guys, if you're looking to adopt a pet, check out the Cambridge and District Humane Society, where I volunteer at 1650 Dunbar Road here in Cambridge, Ontario. Telephone number 519-623-7722, extension 0, or visit their website, cambridgehumanesociety.org. That's cambridgehumanesociety.org. All the animals that are up for adoption there, you can look at their profiles and information on their website. And if you're looking to volunteer there, like I am, you can fill out a volunteer form through their website. And they're doing a monthly 50-50 raffle. Click on their website, cambridgehumanesociety.org, go into events, and you can buy a ticket. And half the money goes to the Cambridge Humane Society. The other half goes to the winner. And also, I'm selling 2025 Cambridge District Humane Society calendars for $10 cash, or you can PayPal me at cpalme19@gmail.com. I have sold 26 calendars and raised $260 for the Cambridge District Humane Society. So if you want a calendar, please DM me on social media, and either $10 cash, or you can PayPal me at cpalme19@gmail.com. Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, again, is live streamed on these platforms: YouTube, Facebook, Twitter /X, Twitch, LinkedIn, and now available on Instagram. Make sure you hit follow and like notifications there as well. My website is beacons.ai/Chris D. Palme. All my media work and previous radio shows are on beacons.ai/Chris D. Palme. Live with CDP Sports Talk, again, is sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Automobile. Check out barrycullen.com, again, for their newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles. Live with CDP t-shirts coming soon. I'm doing a pre-order. They're going to come in any size, any color, and they're going to be priced at $20, and that money will go towards my radio and media work as well. And I'm also on PayPal, guys. So if you want to support my radio show and media work through PayPal, cpalme19@gmail.com, or go to Cameo. I'm part of the Cameo family, cameo.com/Chris Palme, and I'd be happy to do a personalized video for you. It is Christmas time. Who else would rather have a personalized video from yours truly, CDP? I'd be glad to do one. Cameo.com/Chris Palme as well. I am also a content creator. I wear many hats. You can follow me on TikTok at Live with CDP. Just hit that subscribe and like notification. I post a lot of content there as well. StreamYard is the official live stream provider of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show. If you're into webinars or podcasting, check out StreamYard.com. They have basic free plans, paid professional plans like I have. And if you're a business that does a lot of live streaming, they have business plans. Please contact StreamYard.com and contact your sales department. I've been with StreamYard now for 4 years, and they do a great job as well. Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show. The audio version is on these platforms: iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Spotify for podcasters, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Pocket Casts, Spotify, Castbox, LinkedIn, Pandora, TuneIn, YouTube Music, and Good Pods. And please hit that subscribe notification. Finally, you can email me at Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show at cpalme19@gmail.com. Any comments, questions, suggestions, feedback would be greatly appreciated. And I want to say thank you again to tonight's guest, Steve Bermel, the radio and TV analyst for the National Lacrosse League world champion Buffalo Bandits, for coming on as well. And I'm looking forward to the Bandits home opener on Saturday, December 28th, 6:30 at the KeyBank Center against the Rochester Nighthawks. And you can get your tickets through bandits.com. I hope everybody has a great rest of the Friday night, great weekend, and I'm looking forward to the NFL games. Eagles, Steelers. I've got the Eagles winning 27-17 over Pittsburgh, and the Bills Detroit game, I've got Buffalo 43, Detroit 40, and I do have my Lee Evans jersey on from 2006. So I am cheering and rooting for Bills Mafia this week, and only this game, only against a very good Detroit Lions team as well. Again, I want to say thank you to my sponsors, Barry Cullen Chevrolet dealership and Wellington Brewery here in Guelph. And thank you to everyone watching this live stream and on audio platforms. And we'll see you back here on Tuesday, December 17th for 2 shows. 5:30, Tom Cahoon, the longtime public address announcer of the St. Louis Blues, and at 8 p.m., stand-up comedian Lady Nicole as well. And I'm working on even more guests coming up as well. And the Small Talk podcast, after a month's hiatus, will be back on Friday, December 20th at 7 p.m. with Marlene Sharp and myself, a guest to be named as well. I hope everybody has a great rest of the night, great weekend, and as always, go Bandits, and we'll see you back here next week for more editions of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show. Again, sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet and Wellington Brewery here in Guelph. Enjoy your weekend, everyone, and let's go Buffalo and let's go Philly.